We begin in Europe in the mid-19th century, where the rise of nationalism undermines the ruling powers. The Kingdom of Sardinia, allied with France, defeats the Austrian Empire and achieves Italian unification. Prussia, eyeing the German Confederation, also defeats the Austrians to form the North German Confederation. 5 years later, it allies with the southern German states, defeats France, and achieves the founding of the German Empire, which is proclaimed in Versailles. The new country takes Alsace-Lorraine to deter French revenge attacks, diplomatically aligning Germany closer to Austria-Hungary and Russia. It rapidly develops its industry and army. In the southeast of the continent, uprisings threaten the Ottoman Empire. Russia, its historical enemy, exploits the situation, igniting independence for the Balkan states and capturing many territories there. However, Russia's rising status is frowned upon by the Western powers, who meet in Berlin to review the treaty, worsening Russian public opinion about Germany. Consequently, Germany enters into a military defense alliance with Austria-Hungary. Italy joins the alliance after France captures Tunisia, which it has long desired. The three parties form the Triple Alliance. Germany, now a great power, engages in colonial policy. In Berlin, it unites European powers to establish rules for colonization and then captures territories in Africa and Asia. This leads to friction with the British and French colonial empires. In light of Germany's growing power, France and Russia form a secret military alliance. France then secures a secret neutrality pact from Italy, sparing it from a second front in the event of war. The United Kingdom also feels threatened by Germany's rise, particularly by its military fleet that can compete with the Royal Navy. Additionally, Germany draws diplomatically closer to the Ottoman Empire, especially through the construction of a railway line connecting Berlin to Baghdad, facilitating access to the Mesopotamian oil coveted by the British Empire. France, Britain, and Russia then sign a military alliance, forming the Triple Entente. The alliances risk drawing the entire continent into war. The great powers begin an arms race and prepare military plans. In the southeast of the continent, the Ottoman Empire is weakened by a revolution. Austria-Hungary then annexes Bosnia and Herzegovina, a move opposed by Russia and particularly Serbia, which dreams of uniting the southern Slavic peoples. 2 Balkan wars pushed the Ottoman Empire to the continent's borders. On June 28, 1914, the Austrian heir to the throne, Franz Ferdinand, and his wife are assassinated in Sarajevo by a Bosnian Serb nationalist. Austria-Hungary accuses Serbia of organizing the attack. Russia defends Serbia, while Germany, now the world's leading military power, supports its Austrian-Hungarian ally. On July 28, 1914, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. Russia responds with a general mobilization of its troops, prompting Germany to activate its military plan to avoid fighting on 2 fronts simultaneously. Germany plans to quickly defeat France with a surprise attack from the north. They would then focus on Russia, whose troops would need more time to mobilize. Germany declares war on Russia, invades Luxembourg, and issues an ultimatum to Belgium, demanding transit rights for its troops. Belgium refuses and maintains its neutrality. The following day, Germany declares war on France and launches the offensive. The United Kingdom, which guarantees Belgian neutrality, in turn declares war on Germany and sends its troops to France. Within a few days, all European powers, along with Montenegro, are at war, with only Italy remaining neutral. In Asia, Japan, allied with the United Kingdom, declares war on Germany and prepares to invade its colonies in China and the North Pacific. On the Eastern Front, Russia launches its offensive earlier than Germany expected but does not gain ground in East Prussia, while further south, Austria-Hungary retreats. In the west, the Allied armies cannot stop the German advance. The French and British armies retreat across the Marne River, where they reorganize, while the French government flees the capital to seek refuge in Bordeaux. However, the First German Army, holding the flank, turns away from Paris to join with the Second Army to encircle the Allied forces further. The Parisian Reserve Army attacks further north, halting the German advance. With this breakthrough in the lines, Allied troops pour in, forcing a German retreat and re-establishing contact with each other. This is the failure of the Schlieffen Plan. As the front stabilizes, both sides attempt to outflank each other in a race. For Germany, it is also about isolating Belgium and seizing the ports where British reinforcements and supplies land. The Belgian army barely manages to join the entrenched front line, which stretches about 700 kilometers between the North Sea and the Swiss border, with trenches dug on both sides. Now that the Western Front is frozen, both sides launch full-scale attacks on the enemy. The war becomes total. The powerful Royal Navy imposes a naval blockade against Germany, while German U-boats are sent into British waters to sink all ships. Aviation, still a new invention, is initially used for reconnaissance. Aircraft would then gradually be used for bombing raids and air combat. The Germans bomb Paris twice with Zeppelin airships and England about 50 times. Both sides use deadly gases to attack the enemy in the trenches. Behind the lines, entire populations participate in the war effort, including women working in armament factories. All over the world, European colonies and British territories are at war, capturing German colonies and providing significant soldier reinforcements to the front. On the Eastern Front, Russia faces problems with Austrian and German troops. The Ottoman Empire seizes the opportunity to enter the war on the side of the Central Powers. Meanwhile, a new front opens in the Caucasus as Britain lands an Indian army in Mesopotamia to take control of the oil fields. In response, the Central Powers launch an offensive towards the Suez Canal to cut off the supply lines from India, but are halted in their advance. In the Caucasus, the government, after the failure of the Ottoman offensive, supporting the Armenian people against Russia, would result in more than half of the Armenian population being created into a case that is today considered genocide by 32 countries, though not by Turkey. To support geographically isolated Russia, the Allies aim to open a sea supply route through the Dardanelles. Franco-British ships enter the strait to bombard Ottoman fortresses. A month later, on April 25th, the Allies organize a military landing, but the Ottoman defense remains stable, creating another entrenched war front. During the submarine warfare, Germany sinks the British ship Lusitania, causing 1,200 civilian casualties, including 128 U.S. citizens. The United States, which had been officially neutral, registers a protest. To prevent the USA from entering the war, Germany slows down its submarine warfare. After negotiations with the Triple Entente about the annexation of new territories, Italy declares war on Austria-Hungary and launches an offensive along the Isonzo. On the Eastern Front, Russia completes its retreat and stabilizes the battlefront. Bulgaria, seeking to reclaim Balkan territories, joins the Central Powers. Together with Austro-German troops, they invade Serbia. In response, the Allies violate Greece's neutrality by using Salonika to land reinforcements at fronts such as the Dardanelles. However, the Ottoman Empire ultimately achieves complete victory in these battles. For the Serbian army fleeing through Albania, it is too late. The troops are landed on the island of Corfu, from where they are gradually returned to the Macedonian front. On the Western Front, Germany launches a massive offensive at Verdun. The German artillery attacks French trenches, which resist as best they can. In the south of the continent, Portugal, allied with the United Kingdom, seizes German ships in its ports. In response, Germany declares war on Portugal, which then sends troops to France and its colonies in Africa, where only German East Africa continues to resist Allied offensives. In Mesopotamia, the United Kingdom, after the loss of its besieged army in Kut, seeks support in the region. It secretly negotiates with France over the division of Ottoman territories at the end of the war. The two powers then support an Arab nationalist revolt that begins in Mecca, promising the people their independence. In the North Sea, German and British fleets engage in one of the largest naval battles in history. Despite significant losses on the British side, the Germans retreat to their harbor at night. While the Battle of Verdun continues and Italy is under pressure from Austria-Hungary, Russia attempts to relieve its allies with a massive offensive that succeeds in breaking through the opposition's defenses. In the west, another major offensive along the Somme begins, with Britain spearheading the attack. They use tanks for the first time, but this remains unsuccessful. When Romania joins the Entente, the Brusilov offensive in the East Ends and the battles along the Somme exhaust and demoralize the troops. In Germany, war efforts and the Allied trade embargo prevent the country from being supplied with food, leading to widespread famines. The Western powers, on the other hand, can be supplied with resources across the Atlantic. They receive most of their support from the United States, to whom they are in debt. Germany then resumes unrestricted submarine warfare, aiming to sink all trade and military ships. Additionally, Germany sends a telegram to Mexico offering an alliance against the United States. The message is intercepted by Britain and forwarded to the United States, which then prepares to enter the war. In Russia, the war efforts exhaust the population, leading to the Tsar's abdication. A provisional government is established, continuing the war. The United States declares war on Germany, but it will take several months for the first troops to reach the front. Greece, under Allied pressure, joins the Entente. In both camps, exhausted soldiers begin to mutiny. At the Isonzo front, several similar Italian offensives show less success, costing many lives and further impacting troop morale. Austro-German troops counterattack and push the front line forward. In Gaza, British armies prepare to invade Palestine after a victory. To gain the support of the Jewish community, the British Prime Minister issues a public statement to Lord Rothschild, a leader of the British Zionist Federation, promising a state for the Jewish people in Palestine. In Russia, the Bolsheviks organize a second revolution and seize power. They sign an armistice with Germany, but after failed negotiations, the war resumes. The German-Austrian forces incapacitate the Russian army, forcing the country to accept a peace treaty and recognize the independence of new states. Russia then faces the beginning of a civil war. With Russia out of the game, Germany focuses on the Western Front, aiming to win before U.S. troops gain strength. A 4-month-long major offensive is launched, and German troops once again cross the Marne. However, a powerful Allied counteroffensive forces the German troops to retreat. Simultaneously, The Allies launch an offensive on the Macedonian front, quickly forcing Bulgaria to sign an armistice. The Ottoman Empire is isolated as Arab-British troops reach Damascus and the French land in Beirut. Austria-Hungary withdraws from the Balkans and Italy, weakened by minority separatists declaring independence. The Ottoman Empire, followed by Austria-Hungary, signs an armistice. In Germany, sailors refuse to battle the Royal Navy and start a mutiny that turns into a popular uprising. The Kaiser is forced to abdicate, and Germany's new government requests an armistice, which is signed on November 11, 1918. Over 6 months, the war's victors meet in Paris to draft peace treaties, excluding Bolshevik Russia, which had signed a separate peace treaty with Germany. The United States proposes a peace plan that includes creating the League of Nations. The United Kingdom, and especially France, whose northern territory is devastated, want to weaken Germany and impose heavy reparations. June 28, 1919 is a symbolic date. 5 years after the Sarajevo assassinations, a peace treaty between Germany and the Allies is signed in Versailles, in the same room where the German Empire was proclaimed in 1871. The measures imposed on Germany are severe. The country loses 20% of its territory and 10% of its population, mainly to Poland, which is rebuilt and given access to the sea. Germany is divided, with the coal-rich Saarland placed under international control for 15 years. German colonies are divided among the victors, and the country's army is significantly reduced. Finally, Germany and its allies are held solely responsible for war damages and must pay all reparations. The treaty is seen as a humiliation by the German people. Austria-Hungary is completely dismantled, with the creation of Czechoslovakia and the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. Italy is dissatisfied, not receiving all promised territories. Austria, now entirely German-speaking, is denied the right to unite with Germany. The Ottoman Empire is also partitioned during the Treaty of Sèvres. Britain struggles to keep its promise, having promised land to the French and Zionist Jews and independence to the Arabs. The Turks reject the treaty and take up arms again, regaining some territories and signing a new treaty in Lausanne, defining Turkey's new borders. The First World War, or the so-called Great War, was the deadliest of its time, with nearly 18 million deaths, including 8 million civilians. The weakened population was further struck by the deadly Spanish flu pandemic. Economically, the European powers face heavy debts, benefiting neutral countries and the United States, strengthening its status as a leading economic power. Russia becomes the USSR, a country exhausted by war and frustrated by the loss of many European territories. In Palestine, tensions rise between Arabs and Zionist Jews migrating there. The new European borders disturb many, with the fact that some German populations now live in Poland and Czechoslovakia, contributing to the outbreak of the Second World War.